This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Episode 200 of the roller coaster will soon be here, and this is your chance to be part of the fun. I'm going to be recording this episode with coaches and listeners just like you. If you want to be part of the fun, head over to nectargrowth.com. Sign up for free and RSVP for the November 18th event. All of the details will be under the events tab. I can't wait to see you there. What are you waiting for? Come join us. You know you're worth it.
Ride.
Now I know that I'm not the only person who's felt that they're drifting through life, hearing that whisper of your inner self, trying to guide you, urge you to tap into your purpose, but also being too scared to listen or to explore and remember that authentic self. Does that sound familiar? Well, you're exactly where you're supposed to be today, because joining me is Adora Winquist, apologies, the modern alchemist and author of Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love. And we're going to chat about how the power you have in yourself is at your fingertips. Hi, Adora.
Beautiful. Hi, Lucy. Thanks so much for having me today.
You. Apologies. I have a few marbles in my mouth today. For some reason, I stumbled on your name.
That's okay. It happens to the best.
It happens. It happens. So the topic of your book is very, very interesting. But the basis of it is really quantum alchemy, right?
I would say so. I would say if we're going to encapsulate it in a nutshell, we could say quantum alchemy, we could say generational healing, we could say alternative medicine, we could say vibrational medicine. We could use all of these terminologies, but quantum alchemy and quantum living are these core aspects to my work as a modern alchemist, and being able to take my own trinity of learning and life experience, intertwining psychospiritual dynamics from the core of my healing work through the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which is a 4-year school that teaches vibrational medicine with a focus on psychodynamics and how we can learn to heal from our deepest pathways of pain and trauma. In addition to that, I like to intertwine esoteric philosophy. Right. And so these are from ancient metaphysical texts that teach us pathways of empowerment that are sourced from our connection to the natural world, which is where plant and vibrational medicine come in. And being able to harness our allies from the alchemical world, from the mineral kingdom, right, with essential oils specifically, which is my great passion. With crystal healing as well, which is an incorporation into all of my work. And also the beautiful wisdom that comes from the animal kingdom, especially as our spirit animal totems. This morning, when I was getting ready to start my day, a beautiful hummingbird came right upon my deck a few feet from me. And so just a beautiful reminder of wonder, of magic, and of feeling that sense of lightness, right? And being carefree that the hummingbird has to offer. So, I am inspired by the natural world. And even though I refer to myself as a modern alchemist, the alchemy is really not so much what people historically consider to be referred to as alchemy, where you take base metals and you transmute them into gold. My focus is really on your soul work being your soul work, and that every moment of your life, every step that you've taken has brought you perfectly here and now to harness the power of the present moment with the power of your positive intention and all of these aspects of alchemy to be able to actualize the life of your dreams, right? Because we all have gifts that are embedded not only within our soul, but our DNA. And our life is this wondrous journey of excavation and healing where we can source greater levels of our light and our understanding of who we are and who we are in relationship to the world around us and even the universe at large.
Do you find, given everything that's going on in the world today, do you find that people are moving closer to these traditional forms of healing and medicine? Or has there been, my fear is almost that there's been, because of all the fear that's been created, people are suddenly only relying on modern medicine?
I think that's a really great question. And I think it comes back to, I loved what you said in your intro about the inner calling, because I think more than anything, one of the things that the past year and a half has given us are some very big questions to ask and to come into deeper relationship with ourselves, our own voice of inner truth, of inner authenticity, to say, well, who am I? Why am I here? Am I living my life in right relationship? Am I taking care of my body and myself in the way that really serves me? And am I in relationship with those around me in a way that is healthy and honoring of myself? And I think that part of that core of the calling is to garner greater self responsibility for our health and well being. And I think we're all at different places and parts of that spiral of healing parts of that spiral of awakening to new curiosities about ourselves, new desires to expand and learn. And so I think that even though there's a tremendous amount of fear and anxiety in the world, we have the inner desire to connect more deeply with the natural world and the resources that from the plant kingdom, from the mineral kingdom, from these aspects of vibrational medicine, like meditation, like different aspects of flower essences or gem essences, and some of these beautiful aspects of sacred geometry that help to connect us with the natural world in a more meaningful way. And I think even like we don't necessarily quantum leap in each and every moment. Sometimes the steps that we take on that path are incremental and they create a stepping stone effect of, okay, what can I do in this moment to create a more positive or higher vibrational or healthier environment for myself? How can I curate my environment? How can I curate my reality, right? With things like beautiful music, reading inspirational books or poetry, maybe turning the news off for a period of time and not let it run or rule not only my life, but my emotions. How can I make really healthy choices for food and the other items that I put into my body, whether it's clean water or herbal teas? How can I take a look at aspects of my sleep schedule and toxicity, right? Not just toxicity from our environmental perspective or what we put in our mouths, but our relationships. And I think these are those small steps that incrementally become quantum leaps of new levels of understanding, of new levels of experience, of new healthy habit patterns that ultimately start to recreate the world around us.
Yeah, and I think that people are so focused right now on certain things that may cause ill health, let's say, but they're not
Mhm.
looking at some of the things like like you said, listening to the news or social media, things like they're not realizing that all of those avenues, they have their own toxicity to them. I mean, it's a conversation I had with my husband yesterday. I said, I don't even want to go on Facebook anymore because it's just full of hate. But I don't think people are seeing it that way. You know, they're not seeing how these outside influences can really influence what's going on inside of your body. For example, fear. How does something like fear affect your body?
Well, this is such a great question. And I think this comes back to the greater conversation of curating your experience, because when we are in fear or anxiety or that fight or flight, right? When our stress response is engaged and our cortisol increases, then we are really experiencing acute levels of stress, right? So what happens? We are anxious, we stop breathing deeply, and our thought process starts to devolve, right? And when that happens, because our belief system interacts with our thoughts interact with our feelings, and then because of the brain, the supercomputer, right, of our experience, of our thinking, of our emotional experience starts to release these neurotransmitters, and they can either be ones that are healthy and serving, like when we're experiencing positive emotion and contact with our loved ones, like oxytocin. Sorry about that. Sorry about the beep on that. I don't know why. So they can either, our brain can either release those healthy chemicals, or we can go further down the rabbit hole of fear and anxiety. And that starts with everything from, gosh, I feel like I'm really sweating right now, and my breath is really shallow, and I don't feel really grounded. I feel a little shaky. Like there's all of these different physiological responses that we have to our environment, and then to our emotional response to our environment. And this is one of the emphases in my new book, Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love, co-authored with my ally with the plants, Dr. Lulu Shemek, of going into the power of essential oils, which is the most potent form of plant medicine, and how when you inhale the right synergy or group of essential oils, the right formula, um, the right combination of the right essential oils, you can literally, via inhalation, transport your emotional response instantaneously, because of the really powerful connection between olfaction and the brain, but specifically the amygdala and the limbic center of the brain that regulates so much of our physiology, but specifically mood and memory and emotion. Inhaling the right essential oils can not only shift how you feel in the moment, but coming back to that stepping stone concept, the better that you feel in each moment, the more empowered you are from your decision-making process, from your ability to connect with those around you with an open heart. And ultimately, this becomes a way that you can shift the trajectory of your emotional response. So those old patterns of behaving and responding to stress and upset can shift, because we can repattern our neural pathways working with these essential oils, because they are potent biochemically, they are potent vibrationally. They do pass through the blood-brain barrier. They do affect our blood and our systems and our organs, which is why purity is so important from an essential oil perspective. But this ability to create positive experiences with new healthy habit patterns, specifically with the stress response and our emotional resilience, right? Our emotional bandwidth allows us to create a bridge for the highest expression of who we are to emerge, right? And I think that is ultimately a game changer. And to know that for wherever you are in your journey of healing and understanding, some of these concepts in the book may be new, some may be very familiar, but there's something for everyone. In particular, knowing that you can have something at your fingertips to take control of your emotional response. That in those moments when you start to feel stressed and anxious and overwhelmed and afraid and disconnected, that you can literally shift that in a moment. And that is, I think, one of my most passionate messages to anyone and everyone, that you can literally have something that you can hold in your hand and change your feeling and emotional experience and your ability to deal with stress, whether it's acute or chronic, because we're always going to have it in some form or fashion, right? Whether it's from our relationships or the juggle between home and career, or things in the environment, or illness, etc. The world as we are is constantly evolving, right? And so what do we want to do? We want to be able to adapt more easily, to find relief in moments when life seems like it's too much, and to be empowered to make the best decisions for ourselves, our future, and our families.
So what would be some of those essential oils that we could use? I mean, let's just focus on, the stress and overwhelm, because I see that as just as much of a pandemic right now as the other one that we're dealing with. So what are perhaps some of those essential oils, and how would you use them properly?
Sure, that's a great question. Because this is a field with essential oils where natural doesn't always mean safe, right? And so when you're exploring what essential oils, like this is a formula from my latest collection, it's called the Sleep Elixir. So what's an important thing about this? Well, it's diluted to be able to use it on your skin. Because if you're just going to use, and I don't have one right here, but a bottle of the pure essential oil, you don't want to just dump many drops of that onto your skin topically, because it can provide, there can be irritation, especially depending on the purity of the essential oil. There is tremendous adulteration in this market. So knowing your source is incredibly valuable. There's a lot of information on my blog at adorawinquist.com that talks about how you can find pure essential oils and how to blend them. But from a perspective of stress and overwhelm, of course, lavender is a very um,
It's my
well-known
favorite.
essential
Yeah.
oil. It's an incredibly versatile essential oil. There's well over 25 species, and the main chemical constituents of linalool and linalool acetate are what give it its primary function as a nervine, right? Which means it's relaxing and also balancing to the nervous system. So, from the perspective of feeling stressed, I have insomnia, or I can't think clearly, or I'm so upset, I'm so frightened, I'm so angry. Lavender is a wonderful essential oil, and having it properly diluted, being able to roll it on the palms of your hands and breathe it in for about 30 to 45 seconds is where you experience that immediate shift in feeling, right? And so from relaxation, it's wonderful using it in the bath, using it perhaps in a diffuser at bedtime, or all different ways. But the most immediate way to use it is via inhalation when you're looking for that. I need to shift how I feel right now. And so that's an excellent essential oil. Patchouli. And for those that think patchouli is an oil of the hippies from the 1960s, haven't probably smelt true patchouli, which is a wonderful essential oil to alleviate, to lessen anxiety, to help ground. When we feel grounded, we're much less anxious, right? When we're grounded, it's easier to have the breath come from our lower belly versus being shallow. And when we're breathing deeply, we don't experience a sense of anxiety because we're calm, we're grounded, and we're more balanced. So it's patchouli is a wonderful essential oil from that perspective. Um, for when we're starting to feel overwhelmed and more depressive energy, one of my go-tos is blood orange. Blood orange just encapsulates joie de vivre. It is incredibly uplifting. It is bright. It is energizing from that perspective. And especially if you make a spray, and again, on my blog, there's lots of different recipes, and on our social media channels, we're often putting recipes out so people can make their own medicine at home, because that empowers you wherever you are in the world to be able to use these natural remedies in a way that can help harmonize your home and your family and your emotions and your life. And so, these are just, three very simple and very accessible essential oils. But there are so many, and we could go on and have this conversation for days and
Yeah,
talk about just
my
anything.
two go-tos are definitely lavender. I have it in a diffuser by my bed. I also have one in my office. And I
Mhm.
have an energizing blend, but I still always default back to the lavender because it is peaceful and calming. And then the other one is actually an incense. I like to burn Nagchampa.
Love it.
there's just something there's just something about that. I mean, my husband and I have been using it for, I don't know, it must be decades. um and there's just something about, you put it on and I just want to say that you feel at home, if that makes any sense.
Mm. Well, I love that because what you're describing is a very primordial response to the olfaction, to the sense of smell, and connecting it with the limbic system, right? It has to be some experience that you had many, many decades ago that you felt at home. For me, when I smell Nag Champa, it reminds me of being at a dead show, which was a really big part of my life when I was young and I felt free. So when I smell Nag Champa, I feel a sense of freedom. But to take this even a step further, because I know every one of your listeners can relate to something, whether it's fresh cut grass, whether it is a particular flower. For me, when I smell a scent combination of lavender and rose, it immediately transports me back to my grandmother's home. I'm literally standing in the house. I can smell the wood um, from a piece of furniture in the dining room. I can see the box of cornflakes that is in their kitchen and my grandmother in that area and how loving she was, right? So not only am I transported there mentally, I emotionally respond to the sense of feeling immense love and care and nourishment because we had that dynamic, that very special dynamic together. And even a step further, from a physiological perspective, my body responds. So if I'm feeling agitated, I feel a sense of being calm, right? If my blood pressure is raised, it comes into a balanced range. I'm able to open my heart and open my being and be more connected and communicative with those that are in my current reality, right? My children or my partner or my pets or my coworkers or my team. So, this is such an aspect of empowerment that anyone and everyone can cultivate for an affordable prospect in their own homes and lives. And so, one thing that you'll see all throughout the book are beautiful formulas and recipes that we've woven into these aspects of energy, mood, and love, working with the adrenal system, working with the heart, working with the brain and nervous system, and aspects of nutrition and meditation that you can intertwine the ones that resonate for you, which is going to be different for every person. And that's why we've included 11 different aspects of alchemy or alchemical interventions into each aspect of the system to detox, nourish, and activate. And one of the questions that I get asked often is like, okay, so why these three systems? And one of the reasons for that is my colleague and I went through and looked at our 40 years cumulative experience of working with clients, in her case, patients, but also our own journeys of healing and personal transformation. And to say, well, why do people, even though they've been doing different healing modalities, still feel stuck in certain areas, still have a pattern, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual, that keeps showing up that isn't serving them in the highest way. And so when we break it down to detox, nourish, and activate, it's kind of like the analogy. Imagine you go to the store, you have an infinite budget. You go to your favorite health food store, you buy every food, whether you're vegan or vegetarian or a carnivore or a pescatarian. You buy everything that you know is really going to nourish you on every level. The same thing from olives, the liquids, right? Herbal teas or waters or kombuchas, different drinks. And then you go to the supplement area and you get your supplements that you know are going to help to balance out your perfect formula. Same can with skincare and aromatics. And then you go home, and the first thing you do is open your refrigerator, but you can't put anything in because it is full. And not only is it full, it is overflowing, and the food in there is rotting, right? So, how do you take all of these beautiful foods and put them into your fridge? You've got to clear out what's already there to cleanse it. Because otherwise, if you put those things in, not only is there no room, but the bacteria from what's breaking down is going to break down much more quickly all of those beautiful foods and nutrients that you put in, right? So it's the same thing with clutter in our environment. It's the same thing with our emotions and our relationships. We have to let go of what no longer serves our highest good, which no longer serves our truth. And once we're able to do that, we can move into a place of nourish, of healthy self-care, of patterns of deepening our experience of self-love, self-acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion, to then be able to activate our dreams and desires and goals and soul's longings. Does that make sense?
It does, but how do you go through that process of looking in the refrigerator and you know it's got to be cleaned out, to the process of having all of the good stuff in the refrigerator? Because that's the hard part. The hard part is, because I mean, I'll be the first to admit, and I know I'm not the only one, you have that Tupperware container in the fridge you've been looking at for the last 3 weeks, and you keep saying, I got to get rid of that Tupperware container, but you know it's going to be gross, you know it's going to smell, and you really don't want to deal with it, so you leave it in there for another 3 weeks because that's what's
Yeah.
easy. We do what's easy.
Oh, Lucy, I love this. This is a brilliant, brilliant
So,
question.
so
Mhm.
how do we actually move from looking at the Tupperware container and actually pulling it out, opening it up, and getting rid of the garbage inside?
Yeah, so that's awesome. So I think that one thing, we do it in incremental steps, because anytime we overwhelm ourselves with, oh my God, there's way too much to do right here, what happens? We stop.
You
We go
shut
into
down.
just overwhelm and shut down, and then nothing happens, right? So we start with one area. Okay, this shelf here, it's got that Tupperware. I see something growing fuzz in there. I'm not going to address every single shelf right now or drawer, but I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start here with a place of not only positive intention, but positive action. I'm going to take this out and I'm going to clear it out. And then I'm going to say, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought it was. And this teaches us about our resistance, because our resistance is simply energy that the more that we push it away or ignore that it's there, the more it kind of gets louder, right? But when we can embrace it and say, gosh, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to take one step. And then, wow, it really wasn't so hard after all. So embracing where we are, acknowledging our emotions, acknowledging our imperfections, because we're all imperfect. We've all struggled. We've all had pain, suffering, and adversity, but we're also incredibly powerful with infinite potential for transformation. And sometimes it just takes that first step, right? And even when that first step is, okay, I'm going to open a book and I'm going to look at this page, and I'm going to not only reflect on this bit of wisdom, but I'm going to take a step and actually start to get really honest with myself about how I feel, how I'm taking care of myself, what I'm putting in my body, and what I know isn't serving me. And in my honesty with myself, I'm going to be really compassionate and know that I'm not alone in the journey, which is one of the reasons I have been incredibly vulnerable in sharing throughout the book, because I feel like it's not only important to garner a deeper place of connectivity, of common ground, of understanding, but to also say, I have walked this path. And if I have been able to shift and heal from a quantum perspective, then anyone can. And so here is a pathway through this book. Here is a guide of simple and practical steps that you can take and create that stepping stone effect, where one day you look over your shoulder and you're blown away by how much your life has changed, by how much you have healed, by how healthy you are. And you didn't even realize it because, fully perhaps, because the steps were incremental.
And it's so true that the teachers that resonate the greatest with us are the ones that have been down that path before. Because I don't care who you are, everybody's got a Tupperware container full of something gross in their fridge. And
At least one.
everyone's got one. And then you know what? And then there's probably one hidden in the back corner that you don't know is there until you get rid of the one in front of it.
Exactly. And that is so poignant because it is layer by layer by layer by layer. As we release one layer and shift and open, another layer then comes to the surface for release, which is why with this book, wherever you are at your healing spiral, there's something for you. And as you move through each layer, you'll find another message and another intervention that is just perfect for who you are and where you are in this moment.
Adora, just as we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners, and maybe share the best way for them to connect with you and grab a copy of your book?
Sure. Thank you, Lucy. I would say that, and this is coming to me last week, oftentimes as I am waking up in the early hours or sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll get guidance for the day, for some facet of my work or writing. And what very clearly came through is to breathe, rest, and love deeply. Like, this is the spirit medicine for these times. And so all the ways that we can breathe deeply, right? We talked about alleviating anxiety, getting a sense of being grounded and centered, and to rest, to really nourish ourselves with self-care and compassion, and allow ourselves to rest when we need to, because we so often don't. We continue to push ourselves often far past the point of what should be done, right? To be in right relationship with our self-care and our inner harmony and our inner well-being, and to love deeply, because our ability to give and receive love deeply and to experience intimacy on those deep levels is something that we all long for, right? To be loved, to be seen, to be understood, and to be accepted for all of who we are at that place of our core authenticity. We all long for that. And when we can give that first to ourselves, then we become able to see that in others and to open for relationships in a much more meaningful way, in a way that is sacred, right? Because all relationship is sacred, and it starts first with a sacred relationship that we have with ourselves.
And where can people connect with you and grab a copy of your book?
So my website, adorawinquist.com, AdoraWinquist. You can buy signed copies of my book from there, or also links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or our publisher in London. There's wonderful information about my weekly meditations, which are complimentary. Anyone can join in. We have a YouTube channel at Adora Winquist filled with wonderful meditations for healing and empowerment. And our blog every week has wonderful alchemy and interventions from the essential oils, from the crystals, and many other aspects of plant and vibrational medicine, as well as our products and other services that I offer.
If you're listening and looking at connecting with Adora, make sure you check out the show notes. I'm going to have all of the links in there. And Adora, thank you so much for joining me today.
Such a pleasure, Lucy. You have such a beautiful vibrant and creative light about you.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.